Guys, welcome to the I Love CVille show. My name is Jerry Miller. It's great to be with you here on the I Love CVille show. So much we're going to cover with Liza Borches, the CEO of Carter Myers Automotive. In a lot of ways, she epitomizes everything that we're doing here with the I Love CVille show. Positivity, entrepreneurship, helping our community grow and head in the right direction. We're going to get to her in a matter of moments, but before we do, let's talk about another business that's absolutely crushing it in Charlottesville. It's Greenberry's Coffee. Did you guys know for almost 30 years, Sean and Roxanne Simmons have built a business that started in the McIntyre Office Park? They took a beat-up two-door car where Roxanne was driving coffee all over Charlottesville. Sean would brew the coffee and roast the coffee himself. They have taken this journey into 30 locations globally: Qatar, Japan, Saudi Arabia, soon to be in Portland, Washington, D.C. And this story, this business, this company started right here in CVille. It's these kind of stories that really get me jacked and pumped up on the I Love CVille show. I also want to thank Dr. Scott Wagner of Scott Wagner Chiropractic and Sports Medicine. Folks, I have seen it firsthand. This man and his team are changing lives. They're improving the quality of lives of thousands of people across Central Virginia. Scott Wagner and Who's Got Your Back, thank you for your support of the I Love CVille show. On that note, Judah Wickhauer making us look good behind the board. Let's go to the two-shot. Let's welcome Liza Borches to the show. Thanks for joining us, Liza.
Yes, thanks for having me, Jerry.
Absolute pleasure. And when I reached out to you, I'm like, who can we feature that is an absolute powerhouse in business in Charlottesville? I saw a post from you on our Facebook, my Facebook newsfeed, and I'm like, this is destiny. This is the world saying, get Liza on there. She was so quick to respond and come back on. We'll start open-ended.
Okay.
Who is Liza Borches, the mom, the wife, and the businesswoman?
Well, as you said, I'm a wife, a mom, a businesswoman. I'm a runner. I am a sister. I am a board member. And I love every single hat that I wear every day. So I think we started chatting a little bit ago. I've been moved to Charlottesville in 1987, I think it was, with my family. I only left for about 6.5 years right after I finished UVA. And then I couldn't find a better place to come back and raise a family and start a business and put down our roots.
I love this story because I have the pleasure. It's probably my favorite aspect of my day is this. I'm a people person. I feed off talking with people. And I always ask about Charlottesville and how has Charlottesville hooked you?
Yeah.
Everyone has like a story similar to that. Put in perspective how this community, how Charlottesville and Central Virginia, and we're not just talking about the city of CVille, we're talking about Central Virginia, how it hooked you and made you say, this is my home.
Well, you mentioned you came to UVA and never left. And I think that happens to a lot of people. The hardest thing is trying to find a business opportunity or a career path here in Charlottesville when you want to stay.
That's true.
And so I was lucky enough to get to move here right after middle school. I went to high school here in Charlottesville. And then I started looking at colleges, looked everywhere, thinking I had to get out of Charlottesville. I started looking at a lot of ACC schools, and I said none of them compared to UVA. My grandfather probably brainwashed me very early at age 6. Every basketball, every football game we were up in Charlottesville coming to. So I went to UVA, decided to stay in town, and then left for about 6.5 years. Met my husband out in Southern California, although he's a Virginian. And I was with American Honda Motor Company. Okay. I got a job with Honda right after college, and they were moving me all around the country. And in order to have a strong career with them, you've got to be willing to move every 2 years. And so we moved from California to Florida to Annapolis, Maryland. And it was time. There were a couple reasons why we came back. One that I can talk about, why I got into the retail side of the car business. But why I came to Charlottesville was we were moving every 2 years. We didn't really put roots down anywhere. We didn't get to know our community. We just didn't feel a part of it, and we didn't feel like we were making an impact on it. And so as we were making a decision, we were getting married, knew that we wanted to start a family at that point. He looked at me. He was from Northern Virginia. He's like, why would we not want to go back to Charlottesville? And we both said, this is it. And then we got a business opportunity about 6 months after and said, okay, it's time. Let's do it. And we've never looked back.
It's so similar of how like this fantastic community just like romances and like seduces and hooks people to stay forever. And I just absolutely love to hear this story. For me, this is what I struggled with. I went to UVA. And maybe you struggle with this because you grew up in Charlottesville. So I went to UVA. And I think the rite of passage in society says you go to college, you go find a job, you move elsewhere. You don't stay in the town you went to college in.
Right.
So like everyone's like, Jerry, what are you doing? You're staying in the town you went to college in? You don't do that. And I'm like, there's something about this town. How about for you, as someone who was raised in the community, went to the university, and then stayed here? Was it difficult at first?
Well, I left right after UVA. So as you said, I felt this need to leave. I'd lived in Virginia my whole life. I was 21 years old. And I was very clear that I was going to leave the state of Virginia. And I looked at different jobs across the country and ended up joining a trainee program with Honda, and they were out in Southern California. I'm not even sure I'd ever even visited Southern California when I decided to take this job. I went out right after graduation, and I showed up by myself, not knowing a thing. Loved it for a short period of time and enjoyed moving around. I learned so much with Honda, a phenomenal company to work for. But I realized how important Charlottesville is and how special it was after seeing a lot of other communities.
I totally feel the same. You know what I love about it, and I'm curious of what you love about it, and thanks to Lauren Linsky, Patsy Strong, Angie Washington, Tyler Berry, Megan Siegel, Andre Xavier, Sarah Helbushensky, Alexander Michael, Brittany Shields, Brent Waters for watching right now. So we have some
guys.
people on
we appreciate you on.
Yeah, and she's Facebook Living. Look how digitally savvy Liza is.
I'm trying.
This is what I love about it. I love ACC sports. I'm a diehard fan. My dad went to UVA. So just like you, I grew up being indoctrinated in the orange and blue.
Yes.
Almost brainwashed like you. I love being outdoors. I love eating. I love great craft beer. I love music.
That's Charlottesville.
That's Charlottesville.
All of those things.
Don't you feel like it has like the intimacy of a small town where everyone's like 6 degrees from like Kevin Bacon, you know?
It is.
But has like this big town feel where we can do whatever we want. Put that in perspective.
I know. I do love the fact that everywhere I go, we run into people that we know, and it's just, you feel like you're a part of something bigger living in this community. And one thing you didn't mention that I love about Charlottesville is that we're only 45 minutes from taking the kids up to Wintergreen to go skiing.
You do that a lot?
Love to ski.
It seems like sports, athleticism, staying fit, being active is a huge priority with your family.
Absolutely.
What do you like about, what else do you like about the community here? You've mentioned some things you like. How about some favorite restaurants, favorite spots to go? What do you do with your family?
So I would say we're not as big into the restaurant scene only because you're a very new parent.
Yeah.
But those first, gosh, I don't know how many ever years, it's just easier sometimes to keep the kids home
and
go out to eat. But our favorites, Continental Divide is our date night spot. Duners is probably the other date night spot. Vivace, we love to go as a family. And this may not be considered a restaurant to anyone outside of Charlottesville, but Bel Air Exxon to our family is a restaurant.
I love the Bel Air Exxon. What's your go-to sandwich? Do you go with the Keswick, the Farmington?
I would say normally the Ednam.
Oh.
Farmington right there too.
Okay.
And my kids always, I think is it the Monticello, the one that I think it's got roast beef or something? I don't know. They always get the same one every time. But we eat a lot of Bel Air.
So do we. And we're also fighting, my wife and I, and she's watching right now. And thank you, Chris Jensen, April Dent Ward for watching here. We find that it's very difficult to get out now with a 9-month-old. So we're doing the take-in now. So I totally can relate to you here. I'm curious about this. You are now the face of an automotive powerhouse. I see your...
I'll let you use that word. Face of our company. Okay.
I think it is. Okay?
Thank you.
You're a powerhouse. You're a leader. You're an influencer in our community. We see you everywhere. How does that? And it's a testament to great marketing that you're doing. How, when you go out, are you seeing people like, hey, I think I know you from somewhere? Where is that from? Because now, since I've been doing this, I get that a lot too. I'm curious of how you do that.
It is so fun. I have met more people in this community because they're like, I think I know you. How do I know you? In fact, I'll tell you a funny story. I met this wonderful, lovely woman the other night. I was at Belk returning jeans for my son that didn't fit, and I'm standing there checking out, and she's like, you used to work here, didn't you? Yeah, you used to work here. I know you used to work here. I was like, no, I didn't work here. And she said, you must shop here a lot. I've been working here for a long time, so you must shop here. I was like, I do shop here some. And then she looked at me, she's like, no, you're the Volvo lady. That's how I know you. And she was so funny. She said, I just remember those ads when you were pregnant. And she's like, how old is that little baby of yours now? And I said, well, my oldest is now 13. And she's like, no, that was only like 2 years ago. I was like, no, it was a lot of years ago.
That's
so
amazing.
I meet so many people because of that. And I think it's what's made Charlottesville even more special to me.
I totally agree. And you know, you and I have a lot in common. We were talking off air, guys, about how we were raised in our family's business. My mom and dad own a CPA practice, and in tax season, my dad was working 18-hour days, January 1 through April 16th, and then the month after, his body would just collapse from working for so hard. So what they would do to see us is my brother and I were raised in what was then the copier room, the room what we needed a copier for. So we grew up in the business. How about you, your family, your journey from being raised in an automobile dealership?
Yes.
Put that in perspective.
Well, I think there was two different things I'll mention. You know, when I was a kid, my dad was putting his heart and soul into our business, and I did have a mom that stayed home, so I didn't have to be at work with them all the time. But we would schedule our family dinners out around what time was busiest at the dealership. So let's meet at the Friendlies up the street for Kids Eat Free on Tuesday nights, and he would sneak away for 30 minutes to come meet us for dinner. And then on Sundays, starting when I was about 12, we'd go to church, show back up at the dealership, and he wanted to not make as many people work on Sundays as he had to, so I'd be up there doing the logging customers, answering phones in my church outfit, and you know, we just learned the business that way. As far as my kids go, my husband and I, when we had our first child, were running the Volvo dealership together. And there were days, obviously, that were really hard, but it was also the most fun I've ever had in my job. I love what I do now, but the days of us being at Volvo together with our baby and knowing every customer, knowing every associate and their whole family and everything going on in there was the best. So my son was born. I think after 3 weeks, I needed to be back at work, and not that I wasn't working from home during that time. No pressure, ladies. Nobody needs to do that. But we brought the baby in because that was our only choice and what we needed to do. So we had a pack and play in the corner of my office at Volvo. We had a chair so that I could nurse him. I had a baby Bjorn on the front, and Pete and I would just pass the baby back and forth depending on who was talking to a customer or meeting with a client or a vendor. And Taylor was at the dealership till he was about 7 months old is when he started trying to crawl, and it got a little harder. But so many of our Volvo customers still today talk about those times when they bought a car from me and I had the baby on the front of me.
And you know what I think that does? Because when my clients come in here, and my wife is watching now, at times they would see my son Trey, Lauren nursing him while doing accounts payables, receivables, and she is... Lauren, you're watching. I love you. You're a superhero, a superhero. And where I'm going with this is it's like it humanizes the business even more and makes people realize, like, these people are all in. These people care. I mean, put that in perspective from what you've seen.
Well, I think, and you probably can attest to this, a lot of people come in to buy a car with their defenses up, and they think, oh my gosh, I just want to make sure I get a fair deal, and I don't know how this process is going to go. And when they walked in and they met me and they met Pete, and we've got our baby at the dealership, I think it did make us humans. It made us real. And they're like, you know what? We are all in this together. We're trying to build business and grow Charlottesville and take care of customers and take care of our associates. And it just took all the barriers down. And I loved every single moment of it.
My first purchase of a vehicle was a Pontiac Sunfire.
Awesome.
From Colonial.
Yay!
And I am, 23, right out of school. And I was so scared.
Yes.
You know, because it's intimidating.
Scary.
It's a lot of money.
It is.
You know, and I went in, I wasn't sure what to do.
Right.
You guys made it so easy.
Oh,
You
I'm
guys
so glad
made
you did.
it was so relaxed, and it was like, wow, this is how it's supposed to be. How do you get, because you have a huge workforce.
Yes.
How do you get all the folks on your workforce to embody the qualities that you and your family do?
There's a lot of different ways, and part of it is they have to understand the vision and the mission of our company. But one thing that we do that's very unique that I think sets us apart and also helps our associates buy into what we're doing. So we've got about 600 associates across Virginia, and we're one of the few automobile dealerships in the country that's an ESOP. And so 26% of our entire company is owned by our employees.
That's awesome.
And so the longer they're with us, the more stock they earn in the company, and the more that stock grows. And ultimately, my goal is to help them be saving for retirement and have a stable financial home life. And part of that is with the ESOP. So when they get their stock certificate every year, and they understand that the more we take care of a customer, and the better we treat them, the more repeat and referral business that we receive from those customers, and the more times we see them back in service, and if we really take care of them and we think long term and not just try to make $1 today, but think, how do we make this customer want to always come to us for every automotive need? It's going to come back to our associates through their stock and their ESOP as our company grows, and it's just this win-win circle. The company, the customer, the associate, and ultimately, if we're all doing business the right way, we all win.
Judah, that's a highlight reel waiting to happen. Let's rack that, put that down. That's a sizzle reel. You just crushed it with that answer. Educate me. I love sitting next to folks like you, accomplished, successful people, and I learn. And I apply some of the strategies I learned to my businesses. How difficult, what was the motivation? How difficult was it to create an employee-owned business? When did you do it? What was the motivation?
Great question. Way before I think companies were really doing this, back in the 40s, my grandfather actually started profit sharing.
Cool.
And the reason really was because we were a car dealership that had Philip Morris and some of these large tobacco companies in Petersburg that people could go get a job and get a nice retirement. And we said, he thought, how am I going to recruit people to want to stay at a car dealership? And so he did something very unique in like the mid-40s and started a profit sharing plan. We had that in our company till about 1969, actually until 1979, but 1969, from 1979, the stock market did nothing. So we were sharing profits with the company to our associates and then investing it in other IBMs of the world. And the stock market did nothing. So their retirement did not grow a bit for 10 years. About that time, my dad was now running the company and wanted to expand the company. And he was trying to figure out how to do it. And he said, we have all these great people whose retirement is doing nothing. What if we allow them to invest it back into the company? And then if we grow the company and we're successful together, they are going to have exponentially higher retirement savings for their future. So he went and studied ESOPs. And so we actually kicked off our ESOP in 1979. But where we made somewhat, where we didn't create the value for it was probably from them. For first couple years, people were really excited about it, what I'm hearing from my dad, and probably for a decade. But by the time I got to the company, we had 3 dealerships at the time, and we really had lost the understanding of what the ESOP meant. So people would get a stock certificate, and they'd be like, whatever, I don't even know what this is. I don't even know if this is really my money. And then they would go to retire or leave the company, and they get a nice check, and that's when they realized the value of the ESOP. So about 5 years ago, we changed the whole philosophy behind our ESOP. And we talk about it in everything that we do. It's not just a stock certificate. You are an owner of this company. And every bit of sweat equity that you put into your work every day, and every customer that you talk to, if you talk to them like you are the only owner of this company, and they are your future, if we all have that mentality, then we are going to contribute back to this community better. We're going to contribute to our associates' lives, and our company is ultimately going to be able to grow. And we've grown. My dad was kind of waiting to see the future of whether I was coming back or not, and we had 3 dealerships in 2003, and we have 13 dealerships now. And we've gone from probably 100 associates to 600 associates. And really the whole philosophy behind it is that we want to create partnerships with our associates, with our customers, with our general managers who are all equity partners, and we all have the same end goal. So the ESOP is, they don't put a dime in. We put, on average, 10% of our after-tax profits we contribute into the ESOP every year, and that gets dispersed to all the associates. Now, last year we actually had our largest contribution ever. President Trump put tax reform in place, and his goal was to say we want businesses to reinvest in their people and in their infrastructure. So last year we made the decision, we contributed 28% of our after-tax profits back to our people through our ESOP. And we're building 2 huge new dealership facilities to give them better work environments and to give our customers a better place to come for their transportation needs. So we tried to do what we thought was the direction we needed to go in 2017. We're going to have another significant ESOP contribution this year, and just trying to create that win-win. The community, the customers, our associates, and the company. And the ESOP is a wonderful vehicle for a company to do it. The company wins, and they win. That
was awesome. I have goosebumps from that answer. Please turn that into a highlight reel, Judah Wickower. That was so good right there. How does your business go from a few dealerships to, you said 13? To 13 dealerships. Can you put in perspective that evolution and that rise?
They're probably, it's a 2-pronged approach. Okay. One, our industry has been for probably the last 10 years in a place where a lot of people in my father's generation were looking for an exit strategy. Okay. 2008 hit and business got really hard for everybody in every industry, automotive in particular. And I think from 2008 to 2010, there were dealers that were 65 to 70-year-olds saying, you know what, I think it's time. I've done this for a long time. Business is harder than it's ever been. I'm ready to get out. And thankfully, our company was strong enough through that time, and we had saved cash. We had a very strong balance sheet, And we looked at that as the opportunity for us to start growing. And so my dad and I put our heads together in 2009, and we targeted certain manufacturers that we were interested in partnering with, and we determined a geographic area where we wanted to grow. And so that's when we really started our growth, was 2010. We went to the Stanton market, and we bought the Honda Volkswagen store in Stanton. In 2011, we bought a Kia store in Richmond. Then about 2 years later, we went back to Stanton, and there was a dealer looking for an exit strategy. Both of these were, and we bought Subaru and Nissan. And then the next couple of opportunities was the other approach, and that's when you find a manufacturer who believes they need more representation in a market. So Subaru was looking to add a third dealership in Richmond. And I started talking to them probably in 2013 to give them data on why Richmond needed another Subaru dealership. They only want to go there if there's a need. And so we started providing data, and then they look at companies and they say, are you a company that's going to help us hit our sales volumes? Are you going to take care of our customers? Do you have a strong reputation in the community? And those are the three key things that Subaru looked at. And so we got awarded the Subaru Point in Richmond in 2015 and opened in 2016. And then in Stanton, there was a dealership that ended up shutting down. So Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram created an open point in Stanton and came to us. They had seen our sales record. They'd seen our track record. They'd seen how much we were involved in the community. And they offered us the open point in 2016 for Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram. So we opened that one 2 years ago. And now we're looking for more opportunities.
That is awesome. Judah, that's another highlight reel. Let's call that the evolution of Carter Myers. That one right there is fantastic. Okay, so here's where I'm going with this, and I'm kind of trying to relate this from my standpoint so I can learn from you. 5.5 years ago, I chose to hedge from the branding and advertising business and get into commercial real estate and start scooping up building downtown.
Yes.
It terrified me. I saw opportunity. I understood from where I had gone from being a renter for so long that there were a lot of folks, small business owners out there that needed space and couldn't find it. So I said, I was like, the opportunity's there.
Yeah.
But I was scared. Did you guys have the fear when you were doing that? Put it in perspective how you managed the fear,
yes.
the thoughts that were going through your mind, and then the courage you found to just go for the prize.
Right. As we've chosen a growth strategy over the last couple of years, I had less fear about knowing that we needed to grow and more fear about making sure that we selected the right manufacturers in the right markets, and most importantly, that we had the right general manager or managing partner to go in and run that store. When I moved here in 1987, it was because our dealership, Colonial, where you bought your car, was having major financial trouble. And I remember my dad coming home every night, and we talked about 6 cars away keeps the banker away. 6 cars a day keeps the banker away. And we would ask him every night, how many cars did you sell? Because we knew if we didn't sell 6, we were going to start having cash flow problems. So I always had this fear in me of, I don't want to be in that situation where I might let my associates down and have to shut down the company. And my dad felt the exact same way. And he did whatever it took at that point to make sure that our company made it through. But what he tells me and what he's ingrained in me is that he grew the company at that point, but he didn't have the right people on his team to help manage that growth effectively. And so we are very conscious, and the reason I haven't been as scared in the last couple of buy sells is because we've got a very strong team of general managers and CMA team to make sure that when there's an opportunity that we've got the human capital prepared. I can look at cash flow and know that we can do it from a cash perspective. The harder thing to judge is, do you have the human capital to make sure you can manage it properly? Do you have the capacity? If it's just you doing it, you got to figure out, all right, is this going to divert attention away from other things that I'm doing? Are those things going to now fall? Am I going to start losing money over here because I'm making money over here? And that's not a fun thing to do, and it's not the direction you want your company to go. So you've always got to say, okay, when I'm not fearful is when I know I have the right person to go in there and run it.
Your family has a very impressive reputation in business and just being good people in the community. You had some big shoes to fill. Did you feel personally the pressure? Are you third generation? Fourth generation. I'd like to pass my business to my son. Not putting pressure on him. He can do whatever
only 9 months old.
He's
only 9 months old.
Yeah, right. The pressure you felt. 4 generations. Can you put that in perspective for us?
Absolutely. It is a lot of pressure. I think I'll quote Ben St. Hours. Valley Honda always says, pressure is a privilege. And
that's great.
I feel unbelievably lucky to have been given the opportunity to run our business. And I know that my dad wouldn't have given me the opportunity if he didn't have full confidence that I could do it. At the same time, I felt pressure every day to make sure I wasn't letting him down, make sure I was filling his shoes. My dad has an incredible reputation in this industry, not just in our community, but across the country. And I have so much respect for what he has built. That probably the biggest thing that drives me is to make sure that I do not let him down and that I fulfill the vision that he had for our company. I add a little bit of my own vision to it, and he and I have wonderful conversations and debates at times, and I still appreciate every bit of advice he gives me every day, and he's been my most incredible mentor. As far as the pressure to fulfill the shoes that he's left, at one point in my career, and I can't tell you what day it was, but there was a time where I realized I couldn't be who he was, and he wouldn't want me to be who he was. That I needed to create my own legacy, I needed to have my own voice, have my own personality, put my own ideas into the business. And as long as I knew that he and I shared the same vision and we had the same values, I knew he'd be respectful of that. And so I think, I don't know how many years, a couple years after being in the business, I said, you know what, I need to now step out on my own. And one gentleman who helped me tremendously was a guy by the name of Mike Irwin, and he was COO. He was my dad's right-hand man. He'd known me since the day I was born. He was with our company 34 years before he retired, and then he passed away a few years back. But he was the one that worked with me day in, day out, which I think was great for my dad and I's relationship. My dad was there as a mentor, but he wasn't the one working with me. When we bought the Volvo store and I went over there to run it, he really was not involved at all, and he let me have my space. He let me make my mistakes, which if your son ever comes into it, it's the best advice I can give a parent. Let your kid make the mistakes, because otherwise they're never going to learn, and he let me make mistakes. And Mike Irwin really came over and helped mentor me into how to become a general manager and a good leader in our company. And then my dad would just pass on little nuggets along the way. And now, though, he is my biggest cheerleader, my biggest supporter, and my biggest advisor.
That was so good. She's doing highlight reels left and right, Judah. Make that one a highlight reel, please. Did you feel initially in the beginning pressure to almost be your dad? When you were doing it, like, your dad did it this way, I need to do it his way? And then when did you have the courage to be like, I'm a different person. I have my own ideas, I have my own strategies, and I know what I'm doing, so I'm going to do it this way?
You know, one thing that he and I talked about before I even came back to the company was, I mentioned in the 90s, my dad did whatever it took to keep our company alive, but he worked 24/7, and thankfully he had a wife at home to take care of the kids. And I told him before we even had the conversation about what my role would be when I came back, I said, Dad, listen, if you'll give me the opportunity to come back, I will give it my heart, my soul, 150%. But I'm also going to be a mom, and I'm going to be a wife, and I'm not going to have a stay-at-home wife to take care of my children. And so I'm going to have to find a way to balance it, and I'm going to have to do it differently than you did. And he supported that from before I even came back. That was our understanding. And I said, if I'm ever not doing my job and I'm not leading the company in the way that you want me to, tell me. But I am going to put my own style into it, and I am committed to making sure that I'm present in my children's lives. And that has always been a commitment I've had since the day I walked into Volvo, that first day that was scary as heck.
How about the challenges of being a female leader in an industry dominated by males? Did you have challenges that you could put in perspective for us, and how did you embrace them and overcome them?
People ask that question a lot, and the first thing that I always say is I hope that when my daughter is potentially sitting in the seat that it's not even a conversation anymore.
Really?
Right, that it's just, there's no more, let me focus on a woman business leader. It's just a business leader, that we're all in it, right? But it's real, and it's real especially in our industry. And the day, I'll give you two great perspectives. First, just on a very small scale. The day that I walked into Volvo on February 12th, 2004, and Herb Brown was introducing me to the team saying that we were buying the dealership. And they didn't know anything about me. I was new back to Charlottesville. I was 28 years old. I looked like I was 10. And I walked in there, and he introduced me, and Herb just said, okay, Liza, the floor is yours. And I've got all these associates sitting there just staring at me. And I'd never run a dealership before in my life. And I was the youngest, probably the youngest in the room with the exception of a couple of our awesome techs, Brian Pugh, Larry Morris, who were there and still just barely out of school. And there were, I think, 3 women in the room at the time. Our receptionist, Brenda Thompson, Linda Cook, who's still there, our warranty administrator, and our controller at the time. It's male-dominated in the dealership, and it's male-dominated across the leadership of our industry. The best thing that I have found from it is sometimes people underestimate me and women in our industry, and I think that gives us an opportunity to exceed expectations. it also can give me a louder voice in the space of our industry at times. I will sometimes be asked to be on different national committees for our manufacturers, and sometimes it's just because they want a woman in the room. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden they get you in the room, they're like, wait a second, maybe she knows what she's talking about. And sometimes your voice is actually heard a little bit louder because it stands out for being the only woman in the room. So I've really tried to use it to my advantage. I've learned from tons of incredible men in our industry, but I've always also looked at to say, what is the opportunity to put myself in a space where maybe I couldn't have gotten a voice otherwise? And I hope to continue to do that.
That was another good answer. Highlight reel, Judah, please put that down. Do you embrace being a female leader?
Yes.
Do you know?
I'm proud of it. I
pioneer?
love it.
You know, I mean, help us. You're I'm going to say it. I'm going to embarrass you a little bit here. You're a key player in Charlottesville, okay? You are a leader. When we announced that you were coming on the show, so many people said, she's a rock star. Oh. And you have taken this business to another level. It's fair and safe to say. How do you embrace that and say, like, I'm proud of it?
I am very proud of it. I also know we can do so much more, and we are looking to continue to grow. I'm excited for our associates to be a part of our future story. So I'm proud of what we've done, but I'm even more proud of what I know what we're going to do. And I do embrace it. I hope that I can mentor other women who are maybe earlier in their career than I am, whether it be in our industry or not. And I will tell you that there are some amazing women in this community who have mentored me. And my first probably month at Volvo, and I hadn't been in Charlottesville long, Kathy Train knocks on my door. And all I know is Kathy Train, United Way, wants to talk to me. I didn't really know what it was me about. She had me on the board of United Way within like 10 minutes and has been a friend and incredible mentor to me for 15 years. She knows this community inside and out. She has a heart bigger than anybody I know. And the fact that she just finished 30 years at United Way is now enjoying time with her family. I had so much respect for the fact that she said, it's time for me to step away. She had created a legacy here. She created a path for so many of us to follow. So she was one. Another incredible one was Sue Friedman. She's now with the Alzheimer's Association. And when I first moved back, she had a Power Women's Lunch that she wanted to introduce me. I didn't even know her. She just called me and said, I hear you're new to town. I hear you bought the store. I want to introduce you to some people. Come to lunch on this day. I was like, okay. And I ended up meeting a couple other people there. Jennifer Feist, who is with Jim Murray. She works for him. And Marjorie Daniel was there. I think Deborah Conway might have been there. And ultimately, that group of women that I met that first month in Charlottesville was a group that came together to start Women United in Philanthropy about a year later. But Sue Friedman was awesome. She still today, in fact, I got an email from her last week saying we need to get a group of women together to bring the new executive director of the Chamber of Commerce into our Power Women's Lunch. And Sue just does that. She connects people, and she really brought me into the fold.
One of the things, that was a great answer too, one of the things I struggle with as a business owner, and I have this conversation often with my wife, is as an entrepreneur, I see opportunity everywhere. And yes. I want to grow constantly. And she says to me, when is enough going to be enough?
My husband says the same thing sometimes.
Yeah, when is enough going to be enough? We have this, we have that, we're comfortable, we're doing well. When is enough going to be enough? What's my response? How do I handle that? Because I don't think it's ever going to be enough, and it's not because I'm motivated by materialism, or It's not because I'm motivated by, putting anything in the bank. I'm motivated by being a better version of myself every day.
You just used the words exactly what I was going to say. So a good friend of mine always says, he said, our job every day is to be the best version of ourselves that we can possibly be. And I think that is what drives us to see all these opportunities and say, I know I can do that. I know I can do it well, and I know I can create opportunities for others to have a future, so why would we not do that? But the one thing that I've been thinking about, and in fact, I spent the last 2 days with an executive coach who was helping me figure out how to be a better leader and help me plan my goals for this year, help me to figure out how to better develop my team and pour into them. And one of the things that I started my conversation with her with, as far as what do I want to get out of this, and she and I were brainstorming. I said, you know what, I've realized I can have it all and I can do it all, but you can't be everything to everybody. And there's a difference. And so we can do it all. We just have to figure out how to have the right people on the right team, to prioritize, to delegate, to coach and push others, but we can do it all. And it's not because we're driven because we want to just put dollars in the bank, but it energizes me every day when there's a new opportunity that we can make successful. And when it goes back to that circle of is it helping life move forward for our associates, for our community, for our customers, and for our company, then you do it.
That was great. And that's why we launched this show. When I told my wife that I wanted to do a daily talk show for an hour each day, she said, "You're crazy." and she supported me. And she said, "But I know you're going to do it. Go do it."
Right.
But she said, "Eventually, enough is going to be enough." And I said, "You know what? I just love to be around people. I just love to spotlight Charlottesville. And what I just want to do is try to make our community better." And it seems like that's your mission.
Yes, absolutely.
Do you feel pressure at all to fourth generation you? Do you feel pressure at all for fifth generation your two kids?
So my son, who's 13, just worked, well, I don't know if this is legal. He just spent a week working at Volvo over Christmas, and that was his first job. And he wasn't legally on the books. Hate to say that, but I don't think they can be at 13.
He's your son.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. But so he went in, and I got to tell you how proud I was. So I don't work at that store every day. I was not there any of the time he was there. And our general manager, Joe Lombardo, who was so great to just take Taylor under his wing that week, and he said, "Absolutely, Liza, bring him over. We will put him to work and let him see the car business." And so Taylor showed up every morning at 9, and he was so proud of himself. He'd get dressed, he'd put on his outfit, and he'd come in, and he would be so excited about his day. And I'd say, "Joe, how did it really go today?" He said, "Liza," he said, "his work ethic at 13 is unbelievable." My heart was bursting. He showed up at 9. Joe said he knew what he finished the day before. He'd go grab his clipboard. He was running from car to car. He was helping put in the insert tags with pricing. Taylor even told me one night I was picking him up, and we got home. He said, "Mom, did you turn the wheels of your car?" "What do you mean?" He's like, "Your car shows better if the wheels are turned to the left."
That's amazing.
I was like, "But it's in our driveway." He's like, "Mom, your car's always for sale."
How proud were you?
So I was so proud. So I have no idea if our kids will go into the business, and I will never put pressure on them
not.
to. And my dad didn't on me. But watching his work ethic and how excited he was to be a part of our family business, whether it ends up ever being or not, I just couldn't be more proud.
How about the advice you give to folks out there to get through lean times? We are in a good situation because the economy's strong, and it's been strong for a long period of time. And I think business owners out there, and I'm not trying to be a negative Nancy out there, I think business
You're
owners...
being a realist.
Yeah, need to be realists. Good times don't last forever.
Right.
And one of the ways I'm trying to combat good times not lasting forever is making sure my cash position is strong.
Yes.
Making sure, I'm not overextending myself when I shouldn't be. Put in perspective how your family and what your strategy has done.
Right. So I think all of us who went through 2008 learned a lot
That's
of lessons.
when I launched my business.
Yes.
It's
Scary.
brutal.
Scary.
Yeah.
But if you did it then, you can get through almost anything.
Right.
In fact, I feel very fortunate that I went through 2008. My dad told me, when he really got in the business, he just saw things go up, up, and up. And my grandfather, he said there were two things he remembered him telling him. He said, "It's always easier to buy a dealership than sell a dealership, and things don't always go up, or if they're going up, at some point they're coming down." And I think right now we're at a time where I think if we go for another couple months, we will never have had this long of a period of growth in the economy since 1834 or something. I don't know the exact information, but it's a long time. So we always talk with our management team that it's not if we're going to have a softening or a recession, it's when. We talk about stance, that you always want to be looking forward, but you got to be standing with a stance that allows you to respond and react as quickly as possible. In 2008, we had allowed our workforce to get a little bit fluffy, as we say.
What does that mean?
We had gotten a little too fat with people.
Understood.
We had a little bit too much support. We had allowed expenses to creep up because times were good.
Right.
And then we got hit. And we didn't get hit as hard as most. In fact, if you look at the public automotive companies, their stock dropped 67% on average that year. Ours dropped 16%. So we weren't as bad off as others, but we did have to trim about 20% of our workforce. And I never want to go through that again. And so our team often, and Scott Simons, one of our general managers, I joke with him sometimes about we are a little too lean in some of his stores. But he fully understands the fact that we don't want to have to let people go when things get tough. We want to have people who are the best person in that position, who know how to be productive and follow the processes. And so there are times now where we don't have enough people and things get stretched when someone's on vacation or gets sick. But I would much rather have that than have to have the possibility of having to trim our workforce when things get tough.
That's good.
So we watch our cash, just like you said, very strongly. I'm conservative, more conservative than my dad. He says I'm more like my grandfather. I want a strong balance sheet. I want plenty of cash reserves. We have plans. If something were to happen like 2008, we know exactly the first 4 things that we're going to do. We try to make sure that we don't have long-term contracts that we would be stuck in if things were to go sideways. Our team, we have those discussions every so often saying, okay, what's our stance? What happens if new car sales drop 25% right now? What do we do?
And the plan?
The plan is that we've got to have very strong used car operations. We have to have repeat and referral business in our service and parts departments because those departments typically carry you through a recession in our industry. People may not buy a car, but then they've got to fix their car because they need it to keep going. So we've got to have the right people, the right processes to make sure that our fixed ops can carry us through and to make sure that our fixed overhead, if our new car department were to shut down today, are we bringing in enough revenue through our fixed operations to cover the expenses for how long? And we look at that every month. What is our fixed coverage?
Great strategy right there. What does the day-to-day look like for the CEO of a 13 dealerships? Did you say 600 employees? 600 associates. What's the day-to-day like for that? Because, 12 associates. What does your day-to-day look like?
Well, the reason I love my job is every day is totally different. I love what I do because I wake up and my plan today is very different than my plan tomorrow. Today I'm here with you. I'm heading back to actually talk to a potential new attorney for our company, a corporate attorney. We are then getting into a meeting at 3:30 with our advertising agency to talk about the plan for 2019. So they went and met with all of my GMs this week, and then we're going to do an overview plan, and I'm going to give them the big umbrella picture of what we want to do for CMA for the year. Tomorrow we start financial reviews. So I spend 5 days a month doing financial reviews with my general managers and controllers, and we dig into every number. We talk about operational strategies that are working, not working. What do we need to change? That's a week every month. Some days I'm flying off to go to manufacturer meetings. Honda might have a meeting, and then Subaru might be 2 hours later in the same city, which is what's happening next week. We have the National Auto Dealer Convention coming up, so I'll be out there networking and talking to our manufacturer partners, our vendor partners, really keeping an eye on what's going to be the future of our industry. There's so much changing, whether it be electrification, autonomous vehicles, subscription. And part of my job is to make sure that we're staying on the forefront of where technology is going and where our industry is going so that we don't necessarily have to be the first one to try everything, but we're going to be watching the people who are the first, and we're going to be a close second on the areas that we think are the best calculated risks for our future.
First to market often is not the winner. It's usually second or third to market that watches first to market either struggle or have success, then pivot and adapt, and then they have success. How about you you're the face of the organization. You're the Tony Bennett of Carter Myers Automotive.
I can't believe that you just compared me to Tony Bennett. That just made my day.
Isn't he the man?
He's the man.
He is the man.
The best.
I mean, I don't know a single person in Charlottesville that doesn't
He's
love
the
Tony
best.
Bennett.
Yeah.
How difficult was it for you to be out there and be like, okay, here I go. I'm about to be the face of this company. I mean, was that a challenge for you?
Well, it evolved.
Yeah.
I started with our company just running Volvo and did that for quite a few years. And then my dad and I really did a slow transition. There were a couple years where we told our team, you can call him, you can call me, you're going to get the same answer. And we were very aligned in our thinking. And then when I eventually became the face, again, it wasn't like this big announcement one day, everything's changing. We just evolved to that. There was never a moment where I said, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Is this really? Are we doing this? I think the scariest moment was actually just the day I walked into Volvo, because I knew the trajectory of my life. I was committing, saying, I'm going to be in Charlottesville. I'm going to run this business. I'm going to eventually, my goal was to run the larger company. I want to grow it, and I'm committed to this business and this community for the rest of my life. You don't walk into a family business and think, oh, maybe this is my 3-year plan.
Right, this is a 2-year goal.
Right.
Right. Steve from Twitter says, what is your favorite memory or best memory of working at this company?
Golly, my best memory. So there was a month, and I think that it was right about when my son was born, that was the best month in the history of our Volvo dealership. And I mentioned earlier that as much as I love what I'm doing right now, looking at just on a day-to-day basis, when I'd walk into Volvo and it was a small dealership, and it was my husband and now our good friend Fred Willard, who doesn't work for us anymore, but he's killing it out in Crozet running a University Tire and still a dear friend. The three of us were running the front end of the business. We had a fantastic team in the back, and I would show up to work oftentimes with the baby on the front of me, and I knew every customer. I knew their names, I knew their families. I'd walk back, I knew that what was going on in my technicians' lives. I could be really engaged in everything every day. And now with 600 associates, I still try to know everybody, and I'm very close, but it's harder. And I don't know as in-depth as I did. But I was sitting there one day, and this customer, her name was Ruth, and she walked into Volvo, and I didn't know her that well, but I had helped her. She was in her 70s, and she was nervous buying a car by herself for the first time. And she knitted these little yellow booties for my son. And I think it was a moment when I realized that our customers really do love our business, and we do make an impact on their lives. And this is meaningful. And I still have those little booties, and it was definitely one of my best memories.
There you go. We got another question coming in here. This one from Instagram. How about the impact that electric cars or Uber share may have on the industry?
Mm-hmm. I actually recently did an evening on the future of electrification for a bunch of Merrill Lynch clients. Merrill Lynch has a whole sustainable investing arm, and so they will put on these evenings where they touch on a subject within that space. And so we spent a whole evening talking about the future of electrification. When you read studies, there are forecasts all over the board. The couple things that we know, it's probably about the year 2024 to 2025 when the cost of the battery that's needed in electric vehicles is going to be in line with the cost of gas. And so right now, one of the biggest obstacles in growing electric vehicles is simply the cost to manufacture, and then what are they going to sell it for, and the losses that many of the manufacturers are taking on electric vehicles. So that's one major point, I think, change point that will happen 2024, 2025. Between now and then, I think in the next 18 months, consumers are going to see a significant increase in the number of offerings of electric vehicles. The SUVs that are coming, right now we don't have a lot of options in the SUV space if you want to buy an electric vehicle. In the next 18 months, you're going to see that explode. I can't promise that the price points will be where everybody wants them, but the offerings will be there. When you look at a forecast over the next 5 years of where it's going to go, you're going to see one that goes like this, and you're going to see one that comes straight out. And the reason being is there's still a lot of discussion about whether there's going to be another alternative fuel option that's going to come into that space that could eclipse the direction of electrification. We all know that we have to have a better solution for fuel economy in the future. Electrification is going to be one of those. We just don't know how many other options are going to show up. But I think it's a very exciting part of our industry. Lots of great offerings out there, companies that are diving full force into it right now.
Your business, and we talked about this off air, much like Greenberry's Coffee's business, an indication of how the economy is doing. 2018, you said it's the best year ever?
Yes, best year in the history of our company.
I mean, how many years is the company?
We started in 1924, so that was our 94th year in business.
94 years, 2018 was the best year ever. First, I got to give you big time props for that. That's amazing.
Our team gets the props for that.
Your team, sure. How does the team feel? How do you feel under your leadership, under a fantastic team working together, an employee-owned company? Best year in 2018. Put that in perspective, what you guys are feeling.
Well, I am most excited for our employees because when we have a good year, we are going to give a much larger contribution back to our ESOP, which goes to benefit all of them in their futures for their families. And that's a huge deal. In fact, when you talked about pressure earlier, I don't feel the pressure to be a fourth generation. I feel the pressure of the ESOP and making sure that our associates get a return on their stock. Having to stand up in front of them and say, this wasn't a good year and your stock dropped 16%, that stinks. But being able to come up and tell them that our stock went up, I don't know what's going to go up this year. We don't announce that till April when the full stock evaluation's done. But that's exciting. When I can tell them that let's say it's an associate that's been with us X number of years and they have $50,000 worth of stock and we can announce I'm going to make it up this year, let's say it goes up 16%, that is just money right there for their future and their family's retirement. So that's what excites me.
That's the pressure I feel is, we like to give 7% raises.
But you can only do it if the company's doing well, right?
I wake up every morning, and we're almost 11 years in. I wake up every morning, and it's probably unhealthy. The first thing that comes to my mind is, what am I going to do today to drive incremental revenue to help team members get the 7% each year? And it's motivating, it's stressful,
Yes.
it's constantly on my mind because I know that this team is only as good as the phrase you use, human capital.
Yes.
Put in perspective, and I'm going to learn from you, how you manage that.
Well, I think you just explained the same feeling that I have, and I know that our general managers and my partners have, is that there's a lot of pressure on us to make the right decisions because it doesn't just affect us. It affects everybody who works on our team, and it affects their families, and it affects our community because when our associates and our team are doing well, they are contributing members back into our community, into our society.
Right.
And if they're not doing well, everybody around us gets hurt by that. So it is a lot of pressure. I think it goes back to that comment about making calculated risks. We have to take risks for our business, like what you did with investing in commercial real estate. If we don't take risks and be focused on growth, if you're just standing still, you're really going backwards.
You're going to get past.
Right, you're going to get past. So, but we have to make sure that we're taking the right risks at the right time, that we have the right cash and the right human capital to be able to support that growth. And I would say also there are times when you look at an opportunity to grow, and the best thing you can do is say no. That either it's, for me, it's not the right manufacturer in the right location, and maybe I don't have the right person to go run it, or it's going to put a strain on our cash flow. And sometimes my team will be like, Liza, why aren't we growing? Why didn't we buy that dealership? Well, you know, there were a couple reasons why it's not the best decision for our entire team. And that's hard, especially when you look at it and you're like, there's opportunity. I think we could make money there. Well, if we make money there, is it going to take cash away from this opportunity that I think is going to be available in 6 months?
The opportunity cost.
Yes.
Yeah, you're totally right. And I struggle with that because
I think all entrepreneurs do.
I'm confident. I've had a track record of success, and I know I can do something. I struggle with saying no and passing on opportunity. When did you start learning to do that? And how hard was it for you?
It is hard. It's still hard. It's still hard to say, no, I don't think we should do that one. I actually think a lot back to the lessons from the 1990s when I heard my dad. And back then, he decided he was going to grow. He bought dealerships in Farmville. He opened one in Fredericksburg. We had a rental car agency that had thousands of cars on the road across locations in Virginia. Wow. And he was super excited and just said, we can do it, we can do it. And he probably could do it, but he always tells me, he's like, I didn't have these other things in place. And because of hearing that as a young teenager, I don't know that I've ever let go of that fear. So I am aware that we need to say no. We turned down an opportunity about a year ago that I wasn't sure the right thing was to say no. Looking back on it, I'm glad I did. But there are probably some things we said no to that maybe we should have said yes to. And that's going to happen.
Sure.
There are going to be mistakes. We have to learn from our mistakes.
Do you beat yourself up over those? I do.
I do, but I'm learning to be able to let that go, because the more time we spend beating ourselves up over it, the less time we're looking for that next opportunity.
Good answer. I'm learning from you here. You have filled 55 minutes,
oh
and it's
I
felt
thought
like
an hour.
5 minutes.
I kept thinking, how are we going to talk for an hour?
Well, because you're such a good conversationalist.
Well, I can't believe I haven't really met you officially until today, so this has been fun.
It has been fun. Final 5 minutes here, I want to talk about the town we love. I want to talk about Charlottesville in general. Your thoughts on Charlottesville 2019, where we are, your State of the Union for Charlottesville.
I don't know if this is a State of the Union, but I think you've had a lot of people on this week that have been talking about other subjects that have gone on in Charlottesville. And when you and I were talking offline, I was talking about why I love Charlottesville. And I would say that the majority of people in our community, and everything this community's gone through the last couple of years, the majority of people have the right intentions, have good heads on their shoulders, and want the best for Charlottesville. And if in 2019 we can all keep an open mind to know that everybody who's speaking has the right, not everybody, most people have the right intention, and we just need to listen harder so that we can put our ideas together and collaborate for solutions. I am so positive that Charlottesville is going to continue to be the best place to raise a family and the best place to own a business and the best place to live out the rest of our lives. I think we've got so many amazing people here. We just have to keep listening, and we keep having to make sure, just like in a business, that we're putting the most important issues on the table, that we're prioritizing our discussions and our focus areas, not getting sidetracked, and making sure that we appreciate everybody around us and are respectful and kind.
That was so good, Liza. That was so good. Please, Judah, turn that into a highlight. That was so, so good. A couple more questions and we wind down. 2019 Charlottesville. You have history in this town. Better 2019 than what you remember growing up, this town?
Yes.
Why?
I've watched this town grow significantly over the years. In fact, I can remember when we bought the land on Colonial Auto Center, and we were flying in this little plane to try to get an aerial view of it, and there was nothing but farmland out there. And I know that not everybody wants to see Charlottesville grow, but I think we all want to see it grow, maybe grow in different ways.
Strategic growth.
Strategic growth is the right solution.
Yeah.
But we know that as Charlottesville continues to mature, that it is going to offer more opportunities for our families, for our teams, for the people who need us most. The more our businesses can grow, the more positive an impact we can have on the needs of this community. I've watched the nonprofits in this community grow over the years. I think we have the strongest group of nonprofits of any community I have ever seen in existence. I hope, and I know actually in 2019, more of them are going to collaborate on solutions. We've got great minds in the nonprofit community, and I look forward to collaborating with them.
You've brought up philanthropy, nonprofit, and charity throughout the entire hour. How important is that to you personally? How important is it to Carter Myers in totality?
It's a top priority for both. One of the things I'll share with you that I'm excited about and trying to figure out how I can make this happen. We've given a lot to nonprofits over the years, time and dollars. I've been very involved with United Way. I'm very involved with the Boys and Girls Club. I've been on a lot of other boards over the years. Those are the two primary right now that I'm spending the majority of my time. But I've also been having conversations with everybody, like from Jay James and the Bridge Ministry, to Sue Hess at Georgia's Healing House, United Way and their family self-sufficiency pilot. What we've learned and what we know, Ridge Schuyler and his team, that transportation is one of the major roadblocks to self-sufficiency for families in our community. Childcare is another big one, but transportation is right up there. People can't stay employed if they don't have transportation to get to work. And so one of the things I've been working with several nonprofits on, I'm really this year trying to figure out how to make our company the partner for how do we make transportation not a roadblock in our community. And there was an example, there was a young man who's in the self-sufficiency pilot with United Way. His name is Kevin, and he's awesome. And he is sponsored through the self-sufficiency pilot, and he had wrecked his vehicle and didn't have a way to get to work. He had a job. He had his kids both in school. He had all these other things going, but he was going to lose his job if he couldn't get there. So we worked with United Way to try to come up with a solution to get him a loan, which sometimes is a big roadblock.
Sure. Yeah.
Find a vehicle that can fit within a payment range, and the self-sufficiency pilot helped supplement that. But I think that there's a way that we can be the go-to transportation resource to help through donations, through time, and a lot of it's just sweat to try to figure out how do we get someone a loan? How do we repair their vehicle so that they can keep it on the street and get it to work and not have a $1,000 surprise repair bill? And so I'm excited this year to work with more of our nonprofits to try to figure out how we can be a transportation solution for families here.
Great answer. Last question. We filled an hour, and it's felt like 10 minutes. You have hit a home run here. For this question, this camera right here on the left,
okay.
I want you to look at it here. What can we expect from Carter Myers Automotive in the next few years here in Charlottesville, in Central Virginia, and in the Commonwealth?
So Carter Myers Automotive, we are definitely looking to continue to grow. We're looking for other opportunities in the automotive space to allow our teams, my general managers, our departmental managers, our associates, to be able to continue their career and maybe be to be future leaders with us in Carter Myers Automotive, potentially even as equity partners, as a lot of my GMs are. I would say that the three words that I'm going to use to what you can expect from us is that we are going to help move life forward for the most people that we can. And that means finding transportation solutions, and whatever that is, whether it be vehicles, subscription services, electric vehicles, autonomous vehicles, we're going to make sure that we're helping our customers move their life forward with whatever transportation needs that they have. We're going to help make sure we're moving life forward for our associates and helping them have a stable financial future and retirement earnings, and growing our company and our stock so that comes back to them as equity. As they take care of our customers, it's going to help their future. And we're going to help move our community forward and hopefully being a transportation solution for families in our community who right now are having trouble being self-sufficient. So I think you can expect that we're going to help move life forward, hopefully continue to grow our company and make a bigger impact.
Judah, rack that one. That's the best one right there. You crushed it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you.
This is
You
awesome.
crushed it. I'm serious. You crushed it. Thank you so much to Liza Borches for joining us here. Tomorrow is Mark Lorenzoni of Ragged Mountain Running
I love
Shop.
Mark.
Mark is the man.
It's
one of my in the running community,
yes,
right?
and it's one of my favorite local businesses here.
Yeah. You know, you got me thinking here, and I still want to close. We're going to wrap up here.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
You go to Ragged Mountain Running Shop. It's like, obviously it's a family business, but it is amazing in there.
I love going in there, even when I don't need running shoes.
Yeah, they watch your gait,
I
they
know.
fit you. Mark, we can't wait to talk with you tomorrow.
Yay, Mark!
Also, Lloyd Snook, guys, of Snook and Hawley, he's going to join us. He's running for city council. Charlottesville, we appreciate you so very much here at I Love CVille. We close the show the same way every time. Please, Charlottesville, Virginia, please be good to each other. We will see you tomorrow at 10:45 with Lloyd Snook and at 12:30 with Mark Lorenzoni on the I Love CVille show. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.